Welcome everyone to the Megaport live tech drop-in. This is part of a series of tech drop-ins that we do every Friday, so you're welcome to attend any of those. My name is David Sloan, and I've been at Megaport for some 3 years now. And today I would like to talk to you about our Megaport hybrid cloud solution and how this gives our customers lots of scope and advantages in operating multi-cloud environments and network ecosystems. So, just a bit of a level set first, for those of you that don't know about Megaport's network proposition. Megaport's proposition is based on the concept of network as a service, or NAS, as it's often referred to. NAS provides the network in a way that is much more aligned with cloud subscription models, with services being available on demand and in near real time. NAS provides the underlay building blocks for organizations like yourselves to deploy a whole host of technical solutions to match your operational and business requirements. So what makes a NAS platform different to traditional networks? Well, first of all, it's the reach. The Megaport NAS is part of a virtualized global ecosystem built on pre-existing hardware. This gives you the ability to deploy capacity to all the well-known cloud service providers, giving access to thousands of IT-based services, as well as having connectivity to 850 data centers across the globe. And this can be done in a near real-time, in a software-defined manner. It has very predictable performance, in fact, so that we publish the performance on the internet. And it's like having your own private line. Your data travels on our private global network with no internet within the core. All of these components can then be linked together with virtualized network cross connects, and we call them VXCs, and they are typically layer 2 MPLS pseudo wires. And all of this, as an added benefit, makes it highly secure. You also only pay for the capacity you wish to deploy, as it is pre-built and virtualized. You can scale that capacity up and down on demand. You no longer have to worry about traffic spikes or wasted capacity. This ensures good end user application performance. The Megaport on-demand components are very versatile, allowing you the ability to launch physical ports within data centers, which I'll demonstrate a bit later, and then use virtual cross connects across our network to connect to devices like virtual routers, virtual firewalls, and virtualized SD-WAN elements within our network. And further connections onto products like the Megaport Internet, Megaport IX, and these give access to remote branch locations. This makes NAS services very cost effective. This can be all designed, deployed, and fully operational in minutes, and be available only for the term that you need. This reduces your upfront infrastructure cost to zero, as your Megaport assets are virtual and require no capital investment or hardware provision. It's also worth mentioning that egress fees for all cloud providers via Megaport partner on-ramps are significantly lower, some as much as 75% compared to the internet egress fees. So another great financial benefit if you are a large user. And finally, you can design, deploy, and manage and monitor it all on a single secure portal. It's point and click. You bring your cloud service keys, and this makes establishing private connectivity simple. But for those with more sophisticated needs, both Terraform and API calls are available for a whole host of deployments and management scenarios. So a bit more about our NAS before we get into the hybrid cloud. So here is a quick snapshot to show our global reach. You can access Megaport in over 850 locations across the globe. And please note, there are two types of locations where you can connect to Megaport's network. There's the installed location, and these locations contain Megaport hardware. There's the enabled locations, and these locations share the same campus or metro area as a Megaport installed location. Megaport hardware is not located within the enabled location facility, but you can access it through a private intra-campus or intra-metro cross-connect. And as you can see, we've got incredibly strong presence in North America, Europe and EMEA, and APAC. A hybrid cloud combines both public and private cloud components, allowing data applications to be shared between them and reap the benefits of this. This is typically from your premise data center to a cloud provider. And the key components are cloud service providers. So AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, IBM, Oracle, and Wasabi, to name but a few. In fact, Megaport has an ecosystem of over 100 service provider organizations. Another key component is your current DC location, which Megaport has 850 of them. And this is where your applications and services are likely originally hosted. And then finally, interconnection between your DC and your cloud providers. Is it going to be the internet with potentially high egress costs, unpredictable performance, potential security concerns, maybe some compliance issues, and VPN bandwidth limitations? Or could it be a dedicated private connection from a cloud provider, which is limited to that single cloud provider and is potentially expensive? Or could it be from a cloud partner like Megaport, which can enable configuration to cloud services within minutes, which combine direct, dedicated network connections such as AWS Direct Connect, Azure Express Route, and Google attachments all on one single service? And why would you use hybrid connectivity or hybrid cloud connectivity in the first place? It could be for the requirement of flexibility, to choose the best cloud environment for differing tasks. It could be for moving workloads between on-premises and clouds as needed. It could be the requirement for scalability, easy to scale resources up and down either on your private environment or your public environment or your cloud environment, or using cloud resources when on-premise capacity is full. There are also cost efficiencies because you can use cloud environments for general tasks, and whilst maintaining and keeping critical sensitive operations in the on-premise in your DC. And security and compliance. You can keep sensitive data on-premise in your DC, and you can use clouds for less sensitive data to meet regulatory requirements. And then finally, things like disaster recovery and business continuity. So using a combination of both on-premise and cloud resources allows you to potentially recover from disaster recovery situations and return back to normal operations as quickly as possible. So what does Megaport provide in a data center to ensure you have good hybrid cloud connectivity options? Well, what we offer is our namesake, the Megaport. This is built into our NAS proposition. And this is a layer 1, layer 2 connection available, as I said, in 850 on-premise locations globally. Megaports are handed off optically at 1 gig, 10 gig, or 100 gig with long reach single mode optics. Excuse me. When the port is configured, the Megaport portal provides a letter of authority which denotes the meet me room handoff. You can hand this to your data center operator, who can connect your equipment by physical cross connect to our demarcation point. Megaports can be used in lag groups and be configured from multiple diverse chassis in a very large proportion of our data centers. And outlined in this diagram is a simple example of a customer that has a single network device running within a data center. The end equipment could be a router or a firewall or an SD-WAN device that is yours. A VXC or a VLAN is then configured from the Megaport into, for instance, AWS Direct Connect or Azure Express Route or a Google attachment. These VXCs are fully transparent layer 2 circuits. It's also worth mentioning there are a further 100 CSPs and other ecosystem services you can connect to within our marketplace with things like internet exchanges, SIP providers, last mile providers, data center operators. It's a huge market ecosystem. So ports just take a few minutes to deploy, and I'm going to demonstrate that shortly, and VXCs take a little longer. It's also worth mentioning that each Megaport can have up to 100 VXCs at full port speed on it. So you can oversubscribe your port. So one VLAN can be using capacitors when others aren't. And so this is a great benefit, which means that you don't have to waste any capacity on the Megaport. So let's go, without further ado, let's do a demo. So let me just bring this across. So now the demo. I'm going to demonstrate generating 2 diverse ports in a London data center. Then I'm going to connect one port via a VXC into AWS and another VXC into Azure Express Route. The other port, I will configure a VXC to the Megaport Internet product and connect another VXC from the second port to a DC I previously created in Frankfurt, which you can see here. Right, so this is the Megaport portal. This is a demo portal. However, it actually builds live services as we speak. So it's building services in real time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create that port in London that I mentioned. So you select port, you go to the country drop down, you select the country that we're interested. So London, obviously being in the United Kingdom. And at this particular instance, we'll pick Digital Realty LRH20 in London. Okay, so we click next and we're going to select a port speed. So that gives us options from, let me just open my screen up a little bit. That gives us options from 1 gig, 10 gig, and 100 gig. So we're going to run 10 gig ports here. So we're going to give that port a name. So we're going to call that demo 1. And we're going to scroll down to see that there are a number of different subscription offerings available. So you can select it for 1 month, which is the minimum contract term. And that's the only product we have a minimum contract term of 1 month. Everything else can go from 1 hour in terms of our product suite. But you can see all those demos another Friday on the MVE, on the MCR. So they're all available on a very regular basis. So we're going to look down this list and we're going to create a diversity option here with port diversity. So we're going to select create a diverse pair. And that then offers me to name the second port. So we're going to call that demo 2. There is the option to enable lag here, but we're not going to do this in this particular instance, but you can lag up to 8 ports on each of the 2 services. So that could give you a potentially 160 gig across 8 ports on each chassis. Right, but we won't bother with that today. Right, so we're going to select next. We get a summary of the services that we are going to procure. And as you can see, we are on both the red and the blue chassis. And we get a monthly price for that based on the local currency. So I'm going to add that to the port and I'm going to get building. So I'm just going to order that service. It'll validate and ensure that we've got that capacity available. We then select order and that process then will begin. So, okay, so we'll start building services now before some of the other features come up. So for expediency. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to build an AWS connection. So you can click directly on AWS on here, but I'll show you the more detailed portal. So if we open this up, we've got options for cloud, private VXCs, internet exchanges, Megaport Marketplace, and service keys. These are all great offerings, and they will be covered on Megaport live sessions in the future. For the MAU, we want to look at AWS. So we select AWS. We can select a series of different connection types. A hosted VIP is very popular, goes up to 5 gig. And that doesn't plug into a transit gateway. If you're using transit gateways, you need hosted connections. However, we're going to select a hosted VIP in this instance. And to demonstrate the flexibility, I'm able to connect to any of these locations globally, but we're going to be a bit more selective in terms of the demo. We're going to select Ireland. So we're going to connect that interface into Dub2. So we click next on that. We give that a name. So we'll call this AWS link. We'll set the rate limit. We can assign a VLAN ID if we want to, or untag it, but we can assign a VLAN, or it will auto assign in this particular instance. We'll leave it to do that. There's a great feature here with this VXC is that you can shut down the VXC without deleting it. So if you want to emulate disaster recovery scenarios, or if you want to do any maintenance, you're able to shut down the port so you're not seeing the alarms from that. We're going to leave that open. We're going to click next. All I need to do is to add my account detail in there. So I'm just going to cut and paste that from another source. So I add my account ID to here, and I will put in an ASN that will be the end ASN of the device that I'm deploying my data center. So I clicked next. I'll get a summary here. I'll add the VXC and order the service. So while that process is beginning, I'll let that get underway. So as you can see now, the demo 1 and demo port 2 ports that I originally built, you're now able to look at the LOAs, the letter of authority, which you are able then to take to your data center provider. And we see ports coming up within 2 days. So this once you've got that cross connect into your physical equipment. So this gives the demarcation location. So that's extremely useful in giving the LOA to your data center operator. Anyway, so we've got AWS up and running, and that will now appear in my console. I'll accept that service. I won't do that as part of the demo, and we'll be up and running in AWS, so you can connect that into your VPCs. So the next option we're going to look at is into the cloud, and we're going to connect into Azure. So this list here gives you the list of all the locations. Let me move the screen up a little so we can see better. Right, this gives the list of all the locations that you can see, you can access on-ramps into Azure. However, I've created a service key, which is going to define, and I created this in the Azure Express Route section of their portal. And I'm just going to post in the service key details that I generated from the resource in there. Let's grab that. That will verify the key. Okay, so I've connected this into Amsterdam to show the diversity of the product portfolio and how widely we can connect to European networks. So we're selecting a primary in Amsterdam. We click next, and we can start to define some of the parameters of it. So Azure, link, and we've got all the same features that we had before. We can assign VLANs, we can shut down the VXC state if we want to. I've created a limit of 50 in the Azure Express Route portal, so it'll be a maximum of 50, and you can define the Azure appearing VLAN as well. So we're able to add that VXC and order that service. So that service is now up and running very shortly. So we have to wait for that to clear. So we order that now. That's just done the pre-validation. It's beginning the deployment mode. It's just taking a few seconds. Okay, so that's now going to go into Azure, and then we would use our connection to connect that into a VNet gateway, and then we're up and running. Right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a connection from here using a private VXC. So in the second port, the second diverse port within the data center, and we're going to connect it to Frankfurt. So as you can see, we'll call that the Frankfurt link. We're going to set that limit to, we can set that limit to a gig, and we can define the VLANs on either end if you've actually got a VLAN schema that you use. Also, we've still got that feature to shut down the VXC state if we want to. And we've got lots of options here for different subscriptions. So I'm just going to select 12 months as I did before, add that VXC and order that service, and that's up and running. Okay, so that'll take a few minutes to deploy. So as you can see, we're building up a very strong multi-hybrid cloud proposition where you've got services in your DCs that are highly robust with diverse circuits, and you've in effect got now a circuit to a third-party DC location, and now we're going to say, right, we would like some internet for, you know, maybe remote users to come in onto a firewall that we've got plugged into the second port. So we can go into, we've got red and blue on ramps for firewall in London, so you can take it within LRH20 or Telehouse North. We just click next. We'll say, right, okay, well, I have 200 megs worth of firewall of internet, apologies. Spell up. And we've got all those subscription models which you can choose from. So we'll just simply select next as well on that one and add that VXC and order that service. And we'll order that now. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. So what I can demonstrate here is we've built the whole, very quickly, we've built infrastructure very rapidly to build an underlay that supports your business and has multi-cloud hybrid cloud capability for you to work with multiple vendors very, very quickly. As you saw, all these services are coming up. These services won't particularly come up yet because obviously we've got to plug those into BGP working devices. But once you've accepted those, they'll all begin working properly. So, right, let's move back to the any questions that we might have had on that section. So let's have a quick look. So if we've got any questions, let's have a quick look. So I've got a couple, one online, yes. The first one is, do we support MACsec? So the service itself doesn't block MACsec. It actually passes MACsec transparently through the VXCs. So you should be able to provide the service end to end. And of course, it's really going to depend on the far end provider as to whether or not they're able to support it on their partner on ramp. So if your far end provider supports MACsec, then we pass that through transparently. The second one, any others? Yeah, right. Okay, so at this time, so are you able to provide lag on multiple ports from different divergence zones? So that's not possible right now, but in the future, we are developing multi-chassis lag and we should have something available. So I look forward maybe on future Megaport live sessions to featuring and offering that development. So that's great questions there. So just to recap, really, the Megaport port allows your organizations to have a hybrid multi-cloud strategy whilst running no upfront investment and just a minimum monthly term. It creates an instant point of presence in minutes in a data center, only requiring a cross connect to get going. It's private and secure with low latency to far end locations, which we publish. It's great for projects short and long term, allows hybrid interworking, multi-cloud access, which enable data center migrations, integrations and mergers, disaster recovery and business continuity. It's also worth mentioning it's very easy to use, as you saw through the portal. You only really need basic networking knowledge from our perspective. And we've got some really great documentation that's easy to follow on our website, but we're always as SAs available to help you with any installations and build that you might require. And remember that one of the key things is those lower egress charges from CSPs compared to the internet VPNs, as well as it being private and secure, and it's with a capacity up to 10 gig, where VPNs tend to top out a little lower than that, normally around 1.5 gig. So I hope this session has been useful. Please look out for other Megaport live sessions, as they are great sound bites to see what's evolving in the world of cloud connectivity. So until then, thank you and goodbye.